Nirvana means in Sanskrit, blow out. That is, exhale the breath.
Guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm sitting here with Jordan. Jordan, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
How you doing, dude?
Pretty good, pretty good.
It's been fun, even the short little catch-up that we've been having. But you want to tell people a little bit about yourself real quick? Just the rundown? Because I haven't really seen you in like 20 years, dude.
Right. Yeah, no, we were catching up a little bit since high school here. I've known this guy for a long time. But, yeah, I've been recording people for a little over a decade now. And I built this studio starting in like June of 2022. So Halliewood,
that's right. Halliewood.
Yep.
That's
So
right.
Yep, Halliewood Recording Company. I suppose that's an important bit to mention. And over the past 3 years, like building this place and getting bands in here and rappers and everybody I can, singer-songwriters. It's been a cool journey for sure.
That's pretty dope, man. This place is super impressive. I can't believe it's just right here, man. We're not that far from each other. I'm just down over by Boyd Park, like the new skate park right down the road.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's kind of nondescript, but I mean that's kind of the cool part about it is especially when like parts of it were drywall and the first room when you walk in was just studs, then the wow factor didn't happen till the second door. But now,
sure,
I definitely try to like open the door and let people go in, so you can kind of, it's like going from a nondescript setting to like, you kind of get De Niro face.
Totally. Well, tell me a little bit about like your backstory. So like, when did music and like sound become like a prominent interest in your life?
I always love music, but I suppose most people do. I never really was like a great musician. Like I played trumpet in high school or middle school and a little bit of high school.
So you got a little early music though?
Yeah, a little bit, and it was cool, but I wasn't, I just wanted to like thrash on guitar. So then I did play a little guitar, and then that switched to rollerblading. And as like a teenager, piano lessons didn't sound that cool. So in hindsight, like I wish I would have explored it more then, but it all happens how it happens. So just kind of later in life, I mean, really what triggered it is like I had a mutual friend who had went to Madison Media Institute, and he kind of brought his like little Pro Tools rig over and a laptop and just set up a microphone and just like seeing, I don't know, I mean, it sounds silly, but like seeing the sound for the first time, just like the waveforms on the laptop and how he had different tracks and, routed them to a mixer. Just kind of right there, like the hook was in. So.
And it kind of connected with you where you're like, oh, I can see how this works and how this is a thing.
Absolutely.
Which is cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. So, I mean, that's kind of when like the hook was set to, like, I didn't really even understand how, like production worked. So, like audio engineering was never a thing I ever thought I would do growing up, but then we kind of saw where he went to school. My buddy Max, other Max Kappas, we moved down to Madison, went there, and learned the program, learned production, and I fell in love with it. It's all I ever wanted to do.
What kind of music were you listening to at the time?
I mean, rap mainly,
and
we used to make our own music too, but I always, like, my stepmom, her family's all from, like, between Fall Creek and Augusta, so, like, all that was blaring there was mainstream country, so I can probably sing you any 90s country hooks, at least the hook. No.
Yo, it's kind of funny how country and rap have done this weird merging over the last few years now, where, like, some of the biggest shit is, like, country influenced.
Right, or, like, a lot of crossover for sure, which, like, happens, as every, like, genre progresses, then... it kind of blends into something new, and even just like country was one example for sure. But I always kind of liked all types of music. Like one of my, my older brothers, he was super into like punk and like kind of obscure rock. So like I always had that, and my sisters had no shortage of Mariah Carey blasting. So I, just kind of always appreciated it, and like I think to this day I still kind of feel the same way. Like even if something doesn't like really connect with me, I can still be like, well, the production value in X is still really cool. I'll listen to it
Totally.
just based off that, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's quite amazing how music, even the music industry, has changed from when we were growing up to now.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years, like what it had, how it has evolved, and like even now, like where it's going, it's kind of like up in the air as to like,
Yep.
you know.
No, for sure, man.
It's pretty wild.
It absolutely is, and it's not an exact parallel, but with, you know, like the Blockbuster, basically method versus Netflix is pretty much record stores to streaming now. So like the cool part about it, though, I mean, you know, at times like stability is a great thing, but you know, it always seems like everything in that industry and this industry is evolving. So it's always kind of like the Wild West. Like nobody really knows. They have plans how they think it's going to look in 5 years, but like you just kind of, you know, like it's always evolving, you're always learning, and you know, like how it used to be 5 years ago isn't how it is now. So you can probably predict in the next 5 years it's not going to be just like it is now either. So
100%,
you know,
yeah.
like, well, you know, sometimes it can be you know, a little troubling. I think that's like one of the parts that almost allures you to it also, you know?
Well, totally. I mean, there's a lot of crossover between the music industry and like the creative photography industry too.
Yeah.
Where like I kind of am dealing with the same crossroads of like content is easier than ever to create now. And like
Right.
the iPhone, you know how many jobs got taken away because of just the iPhone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like you have to kind of evolve and like just keep it moving. But man, the stuff with AI and just that whole world is kind of scary, but at the same time, I feel like if you embrace it and use it as a tool and just keep, you know, evolve or die, you know?
Yeah.
Survival of the fittest.
I agree 1,000%, and that's the cool part of it too, because like people who are like either the innovators or the early adapters of what the innovators have created, then you are on like the ground floor of something that like might grow exponentially for sure. And that is, you know, there is a lot of parallels between that. Is the same with you know, recording audio on your iPhone. Like that would be a joke 10 years ago, but there's definitely been like
Now, what's that one
hits.
song, that country song with the guy with the beard? Old Time Road? No, not Old Time. Anthony West or something.
Shoot, I might not be the guy for
Yeah, dude, it was like a viral song. Guy with a beard, big red
What?
beard.
Oh, yeah.
Like the really American song. That song was
Yep.
That song was cut on an iPhone, dude. That song
Really?
was
I didn't even know that. I was thinking of more like pop references. There
I
was,
can't
like,
think
some
it. John
vocals they
Anthony
lost.
something. I'll throw him in right here.
Right. No, I remember the song now.
It's like during the pandemic.
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview with him, and he's like, "Yeah, the clip that went viral, you know, that was all just on the iPhone."
Yep. I mean, yeah, you can have a whole studio or like a DAW, digital audio workstation like Pro Tools, and so that's you know, the same struggles and the same positive things as everybody being able to stream from their iPhone with high quality is like, now the bar to entry is lower, but the market's probably a little saturated or oversaturated or whatever you want to say, so it's harder to break through, but like the barrier of entry is less, so that is definitely awesome because it gives everybody a fair shot at it. It's just, you know, harder to stick out now than it was before when
now you really have to tap into something kind of true to yourself. I feel like it's harder than ever to be kind of like this fake artist with just good stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or like people, it's weird how like it's not about like the celebrity, but it's more about the influence now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where like even record labels and like the small behind the scenes I've seen where like they heavily rely on producers and they don't really necessarily care about the artist. I feel like a lot of them think they can create the artist, and so they're looking for kind of that raw material.
Yeah.
And then you bring in your massive producer who then creates all the hit music.
Right. No, for sure. And especially like the more formulaic stuff is where it's like the team of songwriters behind the number one hit is more powerful. They just needed like a face for the, you know, a face for the song more than they did even an artist for it. Because then, you know, like the days of like developing artists and that's, you know, as we're talking about the evolution of things, like now record labels want nothing to do with you until you're at a point in your career where you don't need them anymore. So it's a weird crossroads of like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'm making all the money independent. So now if I'm going to be making 10% of everything I'm doing now, like, can you 10x me with your record label bankroll? That's pretty much like the
it's
debate
like,
there.
can you give me that $10 million deal up front, type of deal? Yeah.
Yep. Now, like, the record labels are like the old manager thing. Is like, well, when does an artist need a manager? Like, well, by the time you need a manager, they'll come knocking, and that's kind of the deal with the music industry now. It's
Yeah.
like, by the time you're at a point in your career where you're making enough money where you don't need them is at the earliest point where they're even interested in having a meeting with you.
I feel like if I was the artist, I'd be the thing that would get me into a major is like creating my own label through a major.
Right. No, I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
there's definitely, upside to it, but there's been strong, like, even like in the rap game, as far as like Rap A Lot Records or like Strange Music and Tech Nine's thing, like they did pretty big numbers independent, and their like market share is way smaller if you're making all of it instead of a percentage of it, but it's still like the majors have the super budget, and they're gonna be the ones who are like pushing to get like sync deals in like big movies and all that, and that's something that can like change an artist's career. So it's definitely a decision, pros and cons, but
Yeah. I feel like in the new world, though, as the artist, from like speaking from the artist that I kind of know, it's all about kind of owning your work now and like not letting the big labels kind of grab onto it. Like, I feel like they're in the last like 10 years, like the curtain's been kind of pulled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where
no.
like, I get it. Like, there are desperate people that are like, I do want that 200,000 to like make my album, and then we'll make millions, you know, but
Yep. Well, and you hear the horror stories too about like all the like cash advances. Basically, like before they give you another dollar off any sales, you have to like recoup your
yeah, you're an
advance and-
indentured slave at that point,
Yeah,
dude.
so-
They rope you in.
Yeah, so you definitely, being independent kind of alleviates all that. But, with the record label comes the power of the rest of the media companies that are under the same umbrella as them for placements and, just connections you're going to have for plugs and whatnot.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about that world. It's such an interesting element, though, watching musicians as a creative person as well, and kind of seeing how their business works and how it can apply to like what I do.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of really great like musicians in that world, and just kind of watching how they hang on to it. And I feel like a lot the ones that really thrive are the ones that like are on their own labels, and the ones that are in charge of their own tours, and they're not giving away all their money. So like the only way they make money is if they're on a stage.
Right. Yeah. And then, you do at a lot of points, I think, have to sacrifice a lot of your, creative vision for what they have. And, but I depending on where you're at in your career and what you're, the numbers you're doing on your own, I'm sure that plays into how much leeway you have. And honestly, like, I don't have a ton of experience arbitrating any of that on any major level. This is just like all secondhand information that that I've heard from people or seen on YouTube or other podcasts of people talking about how the game goes, at that level and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I know we mentioned this before the podcast, but I'll tell the people too. So I worked for this company called Milk and Honey out of LA.
Yeah.
And they're like a music management group. And so that was my big first intro to music. Before that, I'd always just worked with artists on like a creative level, where it's like we're executing a music video, we're executing an album cover, and kind of, but then actually working with the company that's managing the artist that's signed to like Columbia Records, like worldwide or whatever, that was a pretty big insight of like how they kind of fuel the artist. And then watching him go to like voice lessons, to like watching them pitch songs to him to like work on, and being like, oh, like you're not really doing any of this. Like you're just, all you really have to do is show up in the booth and like sing. But then this kid was having too many issues with that.
Right.
So I kind of moved on from it, but it was a huge eye-opening experience. And then shout out Charisma. I helped Charisma do a music video called Higher Love that did pretty well. I think now it's got like 200,000 streams.
That's what's up.
Charisma, drop that album. Let's go.
Right. No, that's what's up.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. That's why I thought it'd be fun to get together with you and just talk about music. Like I'm very intrigued by like the local creative scene around here and like how to add value to it. And like I think a lot of times just helping people connect the dots. Like you never know what can kind of come out of it.
Exactly. No, for sure. And I, even like growing up, it always felt like there was a thriving music scene around here.
Yeah, I think Bon Iver really helped that.
Absolutely. And they immortalized him on the mural at UWEC and have like the Blue Ox Festival and all that stuff really like, makes it a big deal around here. And
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I think it's like inspiring for people. And I think it's cool as hell. And that's part of the reason I wanted to build a studio in the area too. Cause like, one, graduating in Madison at that time, like MMI had been cranking out, let's even say 100 students every semester, but there's 4 semesters a year because they run the summer one, or I'm sorry, 3 semesters a year because they run a summer one too. And, for the past 10 years. So it was just like a lot of engineers trying to do the same thing in Madison. So like coming back here, when that's what I was trying to do is trying to kind of tap into that. And
Sure.
there's, there's still barriers and it is getting easy and you can like record stuff on your phone too. But, going to see like music production for the first time on that laptop and then seeing how it worked on tape machines and consoles and then seeing like the hybrid stuff where like your mixer links to Pro Tools, but the audio is still physically going through the board. That's kind of like a nice halfway point. Or, all the gear evolving, the microphones, and then still there's vintage stuff that is very coveted, which I'm sure is the same with like certain cameras or certain film.
Yeah, like just tools that like give you a certain thing that you just can't quite get otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
And people are never gonna want that thing sometimes, just not maybe for everything, but it's cool if you know the evolution of something, then you can a lot of times, like we were talking about before, as it's being innovated, then being open to be an early adapter to stuff, it's kind of cool to see like where you are on the timeline of this is how it went in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s,
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, if I could go back in time, I might be tempted to. Photography was kind of the thing in like the 80s, dude.
Sure. Yeah, man.
That's where all the budgets, man.
Right. Well, and that's, and again, this is all like secondhand info, but it's scary hearing the budgets that used to happen, and they would like book out months for an artist to write their album in the studio, not just like go in there to record it, but they just book it for months and you just live there and come up with the songs. Is like, I feel like unless you are a premier act on that label, that ain't happening. Like you write those songs on your own time, we'll pay for studio time.
It just comes down to like you have to have the studio connect because that stuff is insane.
Well, yeah, booking it for like 3 or 6 months on the record label's dime is just, that's a thing of the past.
Yeah, they're not selling records like that anymore.
No.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild.
Yep.
It's, in 10 years it all just evaporated.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like the physical copies, the last Blockbuster type shit. Same thing with the record stores, and then it still makes a revival because people still dig vinyl and stuff, and people are making cassettes again too.
Yeah, there's something cool about tangible objects.
Yeah,
like being able to own something.
Yeah, no.
And then with streaming, it's like music has just, man. I remember when it was like. I do remember going into like Best Buy and shit and buying CDs.
Oh, dude, some CDs over and over, like because the hot ones always get stolen. You know, like a Twista's Adrenaline Rush.
I remember going to like Hot Topic or some shit, and
right?
Buying it in the mall and being like, damn.
Yep, and then there was like Disc Jockey or whatever down further.
You know what I remember too? I forgot to bring up earlier, but I think we rollerbladed at Moulton's maybe one time on the. I have a weird memory of like maybe seeing you on that like weird half pipe there.
Yeah. Well, it was more than one time for me. Yeah, I maybe saw you there one time, but that was like there was aggressive night, so that was the spot when they let you like skate the sliders and rails and half pipe. You know?
I remember that like that weird ass little half pipe.
Yeah. See, I was never really like a big fan of the half pipe. I wasn't a vert guy by any means. You know,
I'm a big trainee skater now.
Word. See, I can't even put the blades on. I mean, we had some like, kids' birthdays. I'd throw the blades on and make some loops, but it was like to have the cool skates. I was buying like size 9 boots and fitting my like size 11 foot into them just like to look that much cooler. Of course,
my girlfriend 2 years ago, she had a roller skating party at Moulton's or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
We went over there, and I'm even in roller skates. I'm like going around. I'm like, actually, fuck, this feels good.
See, I haven't tried the other ones. I should just rent some of those ones and see what's up. But
I was just jumping on their little thing, but I still skate pretty hard. Actually, I try to go at least once a month.
Yeah,
I'm like down by that new skate park too. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, that makes it like nice and convenient too. Or like once you make it like a habit, then you'll just.
It's just hard on the body now, dude. We're like almost 40.
See, that's what I'm saying, bro. I tried skating a slider, and like, you get a palmer, and it's like, no big deal. Like, do this 4 times, and the pain's gone. Get the gravel out, and bro, yeah, like the first time I got a palmer, I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm done. It's real.
Yeah, I feel that. For me, it's just, man, my back and my ankles actually are kind of over it.
Well, yeah, man, and like, I'm not trying to like break my wrist skating a slider, and like, it's just like there's a high possibility of that happening,
Yeah, especially now. You still snowboard?
No, not really. No,
old man shit.
Yeah,
dude.
old man shit, bro.
Your dad now?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many kids you got?
One.
One. How's that?
Well, I have 3 kids. I have 2 bonus kids and 1 daughter.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm very intrigued by kids. I don't have any. So
Right.
I've got 8 nieces and nephews though now. I have a twin sister. I don't know if you forgot about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, until you said it, but I think I had more classes with her than I like had with you. Like we used to snowboard.
Yeah.
Chill and shit, and like yeah, definitely.
I wasn't that cool in high school. I got cooler out of high school.
Well, I don't think I was that cool either. I was just trying to like rollerblade and shit, and rock out some punk music.
I was obsessed with snowboarding though back then. Yeah.
No, see, that never really like took off for me. I just I don't know. I definitely dug rollerblading more, and then like, the fruit booters gotta stick together and shit. So skateboarding and snowboarding more went together. So that was more like the skateboard kids snowboarded. So then I had to abandon that.
It's funny. I got my tooth knocked out once because I made fun of this kid Adam in South Middle School because he was a skateboarder. Yeah. And now I think about that sometimes. I'm like, I'm such a skateboarder.
Right. No, and I mean, I definitely, truth be told, I probably wasn't that good at ollieing. So I was like, yeah, I think I actually will rollerblade instead. And at our middle school, there was the dopest like triangle ledge that was like knee high, and was like angled at the top. You remember how beautiful that ledge was?
I remember getting those K2s, those yellow and black ones.
Right.
You remember those ones?
Yeah.
That was. I remember that, dude. I thought it was the shit.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Just sliding PVC in the driveway.
Yeah. Well, yep. Well, and I thought like at least that again would be okay for our health, but yeah, man. After that first palmer, and then I'm like, I'm not really trying to like break my wrist or finger or arm or ankle or any of that.
I broke my back when I was 20 snowboarding.
Oof.
On a 15-stair handrail trying to get too gnarly.
Damn.
Shout out Brian Parrish. He took me to the hospital in the morning because I didn't go right away. I fell backwards onto this rail. First words out of my mouth were like, I think I broke my back. And my friends were all like, you're a pussy, get up. And so like I got up, but then I was definitely injured.
Yeah.
And so I tried to make it through the night. And then that next morning I woke up and I pissed blood. And then I was like, dude, we got to go to the hospital.
That's a good sign to go to the hospital for sure.
And then it turned out I fractured 3 vertebrae. And
that's what I was going to ask.
And severely bruised my kidney.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was rough.
Damn, bro.
I was like 20. That's when I was like, okay, I'm not going pro. Like, what is this?
Yeah. How long did you not snowboard after that?
Probably the whole season.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, then the next season you just went back and ripped.
Well, I did that in photo school, and then that next year I moved to New York City. And once I went to New York City, I really didn't snowboard for like 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, no, then that's when skateboarding kind of took over.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm sure not as many ski slopes around the city as there are around here. Yeah.
My life completely changed at that point because it became about like hot girls and parties.
Right.
It was like no mountain time. Just get out there, have fun.
I feel you.
Too much fun. Shout out John Robbie, the last one left. Shout out Ryan Day. But yeah, dude. So, whoa! I just heard some reverb on that. Did you hear that?
I heard a little. So it was sounding awful chambery. I don't know. It's probably like rattling up in these stands.
It's probably my mic setup.
Well, I don't know. It was just weird. It did sound like a nice church reverb.
Yeah, guys, we're still a podcast and we're still learning how to do this shit. You know, welcome. Subscribe to the Patreon if you're not. A lot of fun things on there.
That's what's up.
So now that you're here, I feel like I hear it now more than ever. Like it just turned on or something. Maybe not. We can cut this, whatever.
Yeah, shit. I don't know, man.
Coming back in.
Right. No, I was gonna say no buttons get bumped or anything. I don't know.
No, I don't know either. I just hear it now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Coming back in. I love doing little cuts.
Right.
Because I'm still figuring this shit out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now that you have the studio here and stuff, like how do you find, like, what are you doing to like kind of get people in here? Are you?
I mean, a lot of the studio stuff is still word of mouth, but I definitely try to make more of an effort to have like, you know, an Instagram presence, which sometimes even if, you know, if people have heard of you or know somebody who came through or if they've been here before even, and then it's just good to show like the social proof, you know, because a lot of times I'll like spend a week in here mixing and then realize like I posted 0 times of being in the studio. So if it is somebody who's like has me in their feed, it's like, oh, well, he must have took the week off. And then like, quite the opposite. I was too busy and didn't even think about, you know, posting on socials. But I just really, you know, try to now just like at least a couple times a week show people that are in here or like mixing. But then the trouble with showing mixes is then a lot of times it's unreleased material.
Sure.
So I'm not trying to like put anybody on blast and, you know, put a song in that's not released yet. So I'll usually at least like try to hit them up and see like, hey, is it cool if I show a little 10, 15 second clip?
Yeah.
Usually it's not a problem, but sometimes it's like the one, you know, the last one I'm mixing is going to be the single or whatever. So then that's the only one up. I'm like, whatever. I'll just tag them, put it on silent, you know.
Totally.
But I definitely, you know, try to be more active on socials, and word of mouth helps. And, you know, I had always had a studio in like the basement of wherever I was at that just had like a little mixing rig, and I could record like vocals or like guitar and vocals. But then if we needed to record drums, I'd have to go to a different studio in town, which is fine. And, you know, I just wanted a place that I didn't have to, you know, do that, and I could record even if a band wants to record all at once and have like the drummer, guitarist, and bassist all in the same room, and, you know, vocalist in the booth, keyboard in here, whatever, like have the capacity to do that. And then, you know, to build a mix room with the proper acoustic treatment was definitely, you know, game changing. So
yeah, I mean, you do definitely have quite the setup here with a full range of services, which is really dope.
Yeah, no, I really tried to, and like also a lot of studios up here, and like and the ones that I'd go record drums at, and no slight at them, like I'm definitely cool with all the studios around here. I still, you know, talk to the owners now and again, just you know, shooting the shit. But a lot of them have kind of like a up north like log cabin feel, which is like what you would expect up here. So there's absolutely, you know, nothing wrong with that. And in fact, some people might prefer that, like, in which case I have no problem in being like, hey, well, you should call my buddy, you know, call my buddy here. Where you know, this one just has like a more modern feel, and I still, you know, with the appreciation for vintage stuff, I still have like, you know, older or clones of old Neumann microphones and like old compressors and, you know, preamps and stuff like that, but then kind of blend that with the latest and greatest that technology has to offer. And
totally, which is an essential tool.
Yeah,
know?
For sure, man, for sure.
I think the Midwest is, I mean, it's such a creative hub here. You don't think about it, but then I was just recently thinking like even about like rhyme sayers. Like they were pretty influential too, and like another like small label that like really kind of owned it, you know what I mean? Like all these guys coming out of Minneapolis that were really owning it back in the day.
Absolutely. No, for sure, man. They would definitely were a big name, and even like Strange Music too. That was what, St. Louis, I think, right? So that's even Midwest, and both them pretty much were I would say that at the time the premier independent labels.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty sick. What have you ever thought about starting a label?
Well, I mean, yes and no, because I'm down to like help people produce stuff, just like mainly what a record label means to me is a bank.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
pretty much that's what they're doing is you're getting a loan or in advance that you're going to recoup a stream at a time or a fraction of a stream at a time. So just in that, being that I don't think I'm in a position to just write somebody a check for music videos and promo and I don't have like connections for tour and all that. Like, well, I'd be.
But you have leverage in like the ability to create.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now that stuff is independent. Like I do, artists will come in here and we will, in depending on what their goal is and what they need from me for the project, like the more that if somebody comes in here and they have all the songs that they've been playing live for the past year or at least past 3 months, they, been touring it all summer, then they come in here, they're well rehearsed, the songs are written. Then I don't really feel like I'm much of a, producer in there. I'm just like recording engineer. That's cool. Sometimes, and then like a lot of times I'll mix it too. So mixing engineer, but I'll never.
But then you're also the studio.
Right. Yeah. No,
So then-
absolutely. But then there's artists who come in and need a little more direction or have ideas for songs. And then we kind of, I'll maybe like, well, I'm kind of, thinking this and play songs that are, coming up in my memory bank of things it could be or a direction it could go. So like in those cases, then I am more producing it, and then we figure out a split on the back end, which is awesome. Of that we can go in on a project together and create something that either one of us definitely wouldn't have. But I also am not writing the check for the music videos and all that, so I just don't ever want to like try to like lord that over people. Really, you know what I mean?
No,
like,
there's an interesting idea in my head that's kind of brewing, and I don't know, maybe I'll cut this out later, but maybe I'll keep it in. But I have the ability to create those music videos and to create all of the content for the back end of that kind of stuff. So then it's like, but then I also have a friend in mind. I don't think I'm going to mention them right now online on this, but they have like over 1 million followers who's in the music world. So then it's like, maybe there's a way to work it out where like if they fly in here to like create content with me, we can also then plug in like studio where it's like none of us are putting money up front, but we're taking obviously a risk on something creative. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I mean, like with them, if it's like points on the back end of it, and then depending on how much of an influence I have on the project, like that's all negotiated like ahead of time or as it's going.
Like it's so hard to monetize that because it's like you'd have to tour with the song.
Yep. Well, and then with that too, also like if they tour with the song, and that's not like I'm not gonna be like, and also which is like some record label shit to be like, well then I get a percentage of merch or something. You know what I mean? Like if I say I produce a whole project to someone, and like produce it, I would never ask for any pennies off their t-shirt merch and all that, which like it is fine. Obviously, there wouldn't even be a thought that would cross my mind. But I just mean like then you're still counting on the streaming revenue and a split of that, where the music industry before used to be millions per album, and the shows were like, oh yeah, well we need to do shows to drive up record sales because that's where we make our money. Now it's like, well, we get streaming money, but like the money is in touring and the ticket price and the merch and the YouTube and
I got 500,000 views on Instagram and I made like 3 cents off of them. They sent me like a little 3 cent, collect your 3 cents.
Hell yeah. No, it's definitely, I mean, when it's like fractions of a penny for streams, then, it makes it, difficult to do something just on spec, where like before you do it on spec and then the project would release it's gonna sell the most albums it's gonna sell in like the first 3 months, you know, or like if the release date is anticipated, you're gonna get a huge check right away because that first week it dumb numbers that are gonna kind of trail off, and now it's like that's just not even. It's not even a thought. It's
What
not
about
even a process.
have you ever done anything in like the audiobook world?
I like somebody who was reading those audiobooks had me like come set up their studio and was kind of, you know, running me through what he does and how he uploads them. But I mean, beyond that, I haven't really dabbled in it, but I've like mentioned it to people, especially like during the pandemic. I'm like, if you have means to record, you know, you can get like $400 to like $4,000 for reading these books. You know? I mean, I'm imagine you're not going to be pulling $4,000 a book right off the thing. But the dude was saying he gets like 4, 6, 800, like sometimes almost $2,000.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I think if you're plugged into the right place.
Yeah.
But then I've also thought, because I'm a big book nerd, and then I'm like, oh, what if you found like obscure books that no one's done the audiobooks for them yet?
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
that's how you kind of get in on them.
Yeah. No, I mean, anybody with like the means to record music or a podcast, you definitely record an audiobook. Then you just need to take out, you know, all the breaths and kind of organize all the files and do that. But I haven't done any work like that.
No, I just think it's a good. I think there's a market there for people that have like. For me, I don't know enough where like this is the podcast gear is for the podcast.
Right.
Where I would never be like, hey, come, like I'll produce your.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like, I like to think outside the box. I'm like, oh, that could be a good market because I know there's a lot of small time authors that like need that service. And I've talked to a few people in Eau Claire even that were like kind of interested in that path, but they were wondering what to do. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, people definitely can, you know, book studio time for whatever it might be. That just, you know, wouldn't be something I necessarily would probably be like orchestrating.
Sure.
You know, for them, but if they work it out and want to come in and record that, like I'm more than cool with that. I've done a little bit of work like for film as far as like sound effects and you know, placing music beds and all that for a short film. They're called New Neighbor Films. I think 2 of the people live here and 2 live in the Twin Cities. It's called Bound and Rosemary, and that was like a pretty cool experience.
Hell yeah.
And then like, at like Toy Car Studio when they were still here, they were recording some like ADR for a couple scenes that were pretty noisy. So they just came in and, you know, just looped it. So it was just cool to see like how that worked. And then, you know, I've seen that now in like behind the scenes stuff and like, oh yeah, cool.
Hell yeah. I've been a little bit in the movie world, not too deep. I got to work on the behind the scenes stuff for A Star Is Born.
Word.
And so I worked on, they were shooting at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was working with Peter Lindbergh, who's like this legendary fashion photographer. And we had to shoot all night while they were shooting. Essentially, we got Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga while they were in character for like 15 minutes at like 3 a.m.
Damn.
But I got to see them shoot that whole night, and I was like, "Damn, this is insane!"
That's
like,
cool.
The amount of people that actually go into it, and like how they do it all, and then
no, it's wild. That's cool as hell.
Yeah, it's probably the coolest film thing that I worked on.
Right. No, that's badass. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was cool. R.I.P. Peter. I miss that dude. He was the last photographer I was assisting for.
Word.
Yeah. I don't know how much of my background you really know, but
No. That's cool as hell, though, man. I didn't know that.
yeah, I went to Brazil with Rihanna once too.
Word. That's what's up.
10 days in Brazil with Rihanna.
Nice.
Vogue Brazil. Shout out Riri. She'll probably never see this, but you know,
Right.
life's been pretty wild at times.
Yeah.
But now exploring the podcast world, I'm like, man, it's just great to sit down and have conversations and pick people's minds. I know I'm not like the best host yet, but I'm getting into it.
I think it's cool you did it, man. I definitely, you know, like we were talking when we were kind of, you know, catching up and setting up and stuff. And I've certainly, you know, had plans for it and wrote some stuff down and even had some intros and outros and some music and I'll do it with this person and this is going to be what we're going to do it about, and then I just never pull the trigger. It evaporates, and then I'll come up with a new plan on a legal pad that you know sits and collects dust. So I commend you for making it, and I think, you know, anybody on podcasts that I listen to that are like bigger ones, if they're ever talking about it or like giving advice, they're like, just do it.
Yeah.
That's just what you got to do. You just got to
Yeah,
jump in,
that's
like,
what it
you'll
came
find your
down to.
rhythm. Yep.
I'm kind of glad it all worked out the way it was supposed to, because originally I was going to borrow the gear from some people, and then
Right.
then it would have never happened because I wouldn't have it like available enough
Yeah.
to be like, let's do it once a week. So as soon as I pulled the trigger and was like, fuck it, I'm going to make the investment, then it became like, all right, we'll just do it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, it kind of almost holds you accountable because
Yeah.
of the investment in it. You're like, well, now I gotta do.
Yeah, now I need to do 1,200 of them. So
Right,
this
right.
shit only cost me $1 an
Yeah.
episode.
right. No, for sure. Well, if that's the motivation, then it definitely.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for me, the motivation is just, I want to continue to be creative, but then I also want to have great conversations, because I am a huge podcast fan, and I know that a lot of the ones you were bringing up earlier, like Theo Vaughn and a lot of comedians, I'm super into the comedy world, so like watching them and being like, oh, and then I don't know if you know Matt and Shay's Secret Podcast, but it's a comedy podcast, one camera, and they just They just sit down and and they have funny convos and they talk about some shit. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. And
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. I definitely listen to like Bill Burr's and like the Workaholics dudes have one.
Yeah,
and
dude, Bill Burr's.
So in both of those, you just feel like they're just talking like it's amongst friends, and Bill just rants like he has someone there with him, whether he has a guest or not. But the Workaholics one, it just goes back and forth. They're just talking, and then you pretty much, you kind of like know that their inside jokes or their sense of humor because they're talking just like they would to someone else, and I definitely dig it, man.
Did you hear anything about Bill Burr and his brother? So his brother, it turns out his brother is the Smashing Pumpkins singer Billy Corrigan. It turns out that is his estranged brother. And that their dad was like a traveling musician and like had two families.
What? I think his dad was like a dentist or some shit.
No, look this shit up. This shit just came out, dude.
Really?
His estranged brother is like this famous singer. They went on like Howie Mandel's podcast and like talked about it together. And they were like, yeah, like you weren't supposed to mention this shit. And it was pretty wild. And then you see them sitting next to each other and you're like, holy shit, you are brothers.
Well, so maybe their family name is just Bill then, and not.
Well,
not
the dad
Burr or
named
Corrigan.
the boys Bill.
Oh,
so he named Bill, and then the other one is Billy.
Right. Or they might both be Williams. And
I feel like it's so he doesn't fuck up the names when he's like hiding his
Sending
second
happy
family.
birthdays. Yeah, dude, I swear though, because he always like, yeah, man, I think he talks about his old man being like a dentist or an orthodontist or some shit.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Man.
I could be wrong.
I wish I had a Jamie. Jamie, pull this shit up.
Yeah, Jamie, pull that shit up, bro. No, that's wild. No, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I'm definitely gonna look into it. Gotta do my homework.
I'm gonna insert a photo right here. You guys decide. Right. But it's just crazy to think that like two geniuses kind of came out of that one crazy dad.
Yeah. Allegedly. No, I'm just fucking around.
I'm telling you, they both get on there and they're like, this is true.
Yeah. No. I mean, shit, that's wild. That's cool as hell. I know Bill does like play the drums and shit too.
Dude, Bill is sick, dude. He's one of the funniest dudes out there.
No, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, those Irish dudes, man.
Mm-hmm.
I like comedy quite a bit. I'm dabbling with the idea of doing a live podcast. Have you ever seen Kill Tony?
Yeah, for sure.
I want to do something like with a panel.
Right.
At a bar here in town, maybe like once a month, just something fun, and then grow it online.
No, I mean that'd be cool, and I think it's awesome to like just create something, and then it's like, well, it's kind of a show, and also it's a podcast, and then if it's gonna be like comedies involved, whatever, I think just putting some shit together that you have the ability to just totally control how it's made and how it's distributed and all that, man.
Yeah, it's fun just to be creative and do it. And like now that I'm back in the Midwest, it's like you kind of look at what things you would do at bigger cities and then go, oh, there's nothing like that here. And like maybe there's a little market to fill there or something, Now that I'm almost 40, I'm always like trying to figure out cool ways to have fun, but also maybe make a little money,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the dream, is to do something that you want to do your whole life. And then also like, fixing problems is, typically a lot of small businesses are built on that, or solving a problem for people. And sometimes it's a problem they don't know they have. If you see how things operate elsewhere and think that it could be viable. And, you know, if you brought it here, XYZ, whether you have to like modify it to fit this market or not, then, I mean, that's a pretty vast market. Then if you have no competition in the area, you can kind of, you know, from the ground up design how you want it to operate. That's super cool.
Eau Claire is a hard market.
Yeah.
Because it's just so small. You know, I have more followers on one of my Instagram accounts than there are people in Eau Claire.
Right. Well, and
so it becomes...
but then, yeah, for sure. But I mean, at the same time, too, with something like a podcast or a web show or whatever, like for the live events, that does change things. But, you know, the beauty of this is you know.
Well, it's hard to get people in Eau Claire to do anything.
Right.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
And then, like, there's no bars that are busy 5 days a week.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So then it becomes, it's like, what do you do then? And it's like, well, you market to the kids, you know, it's the 20,000 or whatever new kids every year there are here in town.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but that's like a revolving door too. But for sure. But I mean, it's typical, you know, college town shit. You
Totally.
know? Like the parts of the town that usually like Water Street is active except for the summer when, you know, that place looks like an abandoned city.
Ghost towns.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's college town life.
I'm glad it's a college town because there'd be no life here if there wasn't.
Right.
I swear. And then it's nice being around the young kids who are still like hungry.
Right.
You know?
No, for sure. It definitely is cool because they have like they have a recording program at UWEC, and I, you know, like have through mutual friends met some people who are in that program, and then they come to the studio, and I just think that, you know, that's definitely cool to hear their perspective of things, and, you know, all that, the younger crowd kind of.
Hell yeah. Keeps it moving,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Otherwise it gets so stale, and it's like that fresh newness keeps it rolling. Also, like having the internet really changed the vibe too, I feel like, because now you can be here but you're still connected.
Yeah.
And so like you can see what's going on other places. It's funny because like when we were first kind of becoming young adults, probably in our 20s, you could like go to New York and people were kind of different from LA.
Right.
And now you go, it's like all the hipsters are the same everywhere.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with like words and fashion and music, like it definitely, I mean, although MTV would spread the music right away, like the more underground shit, it would definitely trickle in from the East and West Coast, and it would be like a lag time of like months or a year before like certain fashions or certain music or certain words trickled to the Midwest.
Totally.
And then, you know, then it evolved there into something new and the cycle repeated. And now with the internet, it's just immediate.
I know. And now with Diddy, it makes me like wonder what exactly was going on with the whole gangster rap situation and like how it was all fueled. And music is a weird industry.
Yeah. No, for sure, man.
You know what I mean? Because like that whole East Coast, West Coast thing, I really think that was a Fed thing now.
Yeah, man. I mean, I
don't know if you have any. It's kind of a left.
Well, I'm only smiling because for some reason, like, I'm not the biggest. I shouldn't say that. I'll get fucking roasted. I don't mean to say that I'm not a fan of Biggie or Tupac. They both get put in my top 10. Right?
Sure.
Like, it's almost mandatory. But I also mean, like, I'm not just putting in there because. But I just don't, on a regular basis, listen to a lot of Biggie or a lot of Tupac.
Yeah.
You know, at all. But there'll be times. Don't get me wrong.
I was more of a Biggie fan, but that's because I lived in Brooklyn for so long.
Right. And see, and like I definitely, like, Ready to Die was
the best.
Yeah. Like I love that album, but I just don't find myself playing it a lot. But like that being said, for some reason, just like the way all that shit went down, and then like and now it's like happening in real time with fucking like Dirk, and then like Yellow Beezy, and then Mo 3 guy, and but just the Tupac when Vlad was solving the murder, when he had that Keefy D wrote a book. You seen all that shit? And then like the dude who basically was like driving the car that killed Tupac, the white Cadillac, he like confessed to everything, wrote a book, thought he was all good because he signed this proffer agreement. So anything he said at that time, they like popped him for a PCP ring, but they knew. Are you ready to solve Tupac's murder right now? No, I'm just kidding.
I am, dude.
No,
I am.
So they basically, Vlad was also obsessed with it. So he'd interview like Greg Kading and a lot of these dudes who were like investigators at the time. So Greg Kading like took this fucking. He didn't tell Keefe D was recording it. Matter of fact, I think it was illegal for him, but it's called like King for a Day or something, some type of proffer agreement. I don't know if that's a California thing or a federal thing, but if it was them dudes, I think it was like Compton County or maybe state police at the most. But they caught him up on a PCP ring because they wanted the fucking answer to Tupac. So they knew, like, fuck the PCP. So they're like, if you have to tell us everything, but if you tell us one thing that's incorrect, we're going to charge you for everything. And for the PCP, like, your whole neighborhood's getting locked up. So he fucking told. And, but not only did he tell on the PCP ring and that type of shit, but he solved Tupac's murder for them. And then he thought he had a pass since he said it. Like, well, they can't charge me for it. I basically have fucking immunity. And, like, that's not the case. So him writing the book and then going on Vlad and admitting to it, and then, yeah, man. So, like, the dude, he's going to be on trial soon. It was supposed to be, like, in last July. But, bro, yeah, I mean.
But who put him up to it?
Well, they said Diddy I think sent him $1 million. And
I think Diddy.
He told the whole story. He's like, bro, basically, Diddy used to, like, check in with Keefe D and them. Them guys were all, like, Southside Crips or something. And they would use them for protection. So Diddy allegedly in a room said $1 million for Suge, $1 million for Tupac. And then there's this dude Zip, who Keefe D tells the whole story. He's like, yep, Foxy Brown went and got the fucking gun from Zip and brought it to us in Los Angeles because we drove here, or in Las Vegas because we drove here from LA and we didn't have plans to kill anyone. Then pretty much it's just the path of least resistance. Like, it was because he got fucking beat up in the lobby, and basically to them, Tupac was an entertainer, not a street dude. So they're like, if one of those other dudes with Suge would have whooped his ass, then he would have just, like, they would have worked it out when they got back in LA and they would have fought again. But he's like, since a rapper took a swing on a gang member, like, that Orlando couldn't go home.
Yeah.
Without that happening.
That's crazy.
So pretty much, yeah, the dude who confessed and who's on trial is, like, Orlando Lane's uncle. So he allegedly, yeah, and he said he was supposed to get paid $1 million, and then they even went so far as to, like, tracked it down. And the Zip dude got the $1 million and bought a nightclub in New York instead of paying off Keefe D. So he didn't even get his money. And the next, he was apparently like a cocaine kingpin at the time. Keefe D was this dude who's on trial right now, and his Colombian connect met him at a gas station and was like, "You're all over the newspapers, you stupid motherfucker. Don't ever call me again. If you ever try to contact me again, the next time you see me, you're not gonna want to see me. Why are you in this position, and why are you on fucking Dateline?" You know, he's like, yep. So not only did I not get the $1 million, we were making hundreds of thousands a month, and that evaporated that very next day.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's fucking such a wild dude. We just solved Tupac's murder case.
I didn't think we were gonna walk down that, but that's the shout out to DJ Vlad for putting it together.
Dude, that was fucking sick, dude. Well, we're about an hour in right now, dude.
Oh, my bad. We can cut that whole Tupac thing.
We're just warming up, dude. Let's go.
No, but I just, strangely was fascinated by it, even though I never listened to really any of their music that much. It was just like...
Well, I just know Biggie wanted to leave Bad Boy.
Right.
And then you hear about, like, all the kind of the gay stuff from Pac, or not from Pac, from Diddy, and you're like, oh, no wonder he was trying to, and then it's like, if you own everything, if he dies, it's like, kind of, you know.
Right, some motive there. Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people say he was, like, sacrificed or whatever, like, they, have come out and said who fucking shot him, and the same with the Keefe D situation is like, well, even if he, they pulled the trigger, who was behind it? So the other deal of, like, who really... like, did he sacrifice him, or people were like, he knew at that point by even bringing him back to LA, even if he didn't tell anybody or pay anybody to also kill Biggie, they knew, like, coming back there at that time was, like, too much disrespect, and he wasn't gonna make it home. And
yeah,
was, like,
that's fucking...
Yeah, man. No,
that's wild.
Definitely. It's
all over music, too. It's like, I'm so dumb.
Yeah, man. Yep.
Well, dude, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I didn't mean to hijack that with the Tupac story.
No, I thought that was great.
We can hit a new subject, and
I thought it was great. Unless you're worried about it.
well, I don't know. I just was like, should half my interview be about the DJ Vlad interviews I've watched over the past 3 years about who really fucking killed him?
I thought the whole time I was thinking that's a good clip.
Really? Well, I don't know, man. I just thought it was like, because there's always the conspiracy theories and the whatever, and like, like whether you want to believe that shit or not, it just was always like lingering. So when like a couple years ago, like the info just came out, is like, whoa. Like, I just don't expect, that was like as mysterious to me as like who really killed JFK. You know what I'm saying?
The feds.
Whoa, right. But I don't expect that. Like DJ Vlad ain't cracking that. I don't know why I'm saying DJ Vlad. He was DJ Vlad before he was Vlad TV. Maybe he'll solve JFK's murder next. But I just mean, like, I don't expect that to be solved on YouTube in the next, like, couple years or anything. So
I think
like
we solved it just now, dude.
well, I was just only regurgitating all the DJ Vlad interviews because that dude was just obsessed with it and interviewed like the first responder who, was on the scene, the cops who investigated it. Yada, blah, blah, blah.
He went deep in.
He just put it together, but he's like, basically the fucking murderer wrote a book and said like, yep, Puffy paid me $1 million for Suge, $1 million for Tupac. He's like, I played football with Suge, Pop Warner. Like, I shot him in the fucking head too. I seen him take a bullet in the head, which Suge did. And then that's why it was just so fascinating, because people were like, maybe Suge did it. And it's like, bro, he took a bullet in the head. Like, that's a ballsy setup. If you're like, so come up on the passenger side and shoot like right at me and like hit me in the head once, but don't kill me. It's like, come on, bro.
That's wild.
But it was just so, fantastical that that was even a fucking issue. So, it just was fascinating and from our childhood, and I just never thought that would be solved on YouTube.
I know, it's crazy what comes out like through the conspiracy theory pathways these days.
Yeah.
We're like, wait, that is true. Damn it.
Well, no, for sure, man. Yeah, it's definitely wild now, and then you never know like what's true and what's not. So then, and even watching that is like, well, is this guy just doing it for his, 15 minutes of fame, and then like the indictment comes down and he's on trial for it? Is like, oh shit, well, apparently the feds thought that story sounded pretty good too, so you just gotta watch what you say.
I know. I don't know why you'd go the distance of like writing a book and shit if you actually had murdered someone. It's like, all right, you didn't get the money, but like you can't then go try to capitalize on the project.
Yeah, man.
I
mean, maybe it was a last ditch effort because it was his like defining moment or something. I don't really.
It's like you get none of the money and you're gonna go to jail now. It's like, damn, dude.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he foresaw the last part coming, and I think he was still living in Vegas, so that was like just a fuck you to Vegas PD. Like if he was living in like Tempe, they'd probably be like, whatever, dude.
Whatever.
Yeah, but you can't be still living in the city where you committed like the most famous fucking murder of our generation.
I know, that's wild.
Yeah, fucking living down the street, bro.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So let's switch up the topic
switch gears.
tiny bit. So who are you listening to these days? You got any good music going on? Or what kind of vibes you into?
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth between like trying to listen to new shit and listening to, like the shit I used to love.
Sure.
So I mean, really, Jelly Roll was like I really liked his music when he used to rap, and then it's just crazy to see, and I don't play his like albums back to back, but like he's definitely had some good songs throughout this path.
I fucking love Jelly Roll, dude. He just sings from the soul, like his shit is so relatable, like that kind of down in the mud, getting through life type of shit.
Well, yeah, and he just like doesn't necessarily like, you can still hear the drawl when he's singing, but he isn't like always, because I better not. Let me choose to say this carefully.
Coming back in.
I just feel like his shit, like you said, everything just feels like authentic, and he's not trying to be like,
Well, I think now he's trying to get the bag.
Well,
But
he's trying to get the super bag for sure, but I just mean like he's not all about like talking about his, his tractors and stuff either. So like, well, you can still tell he's like a country dude by the music that influenced him.
but
and
he's
his
like
drawl.
country heroin chic. You know what I mean?
Right,
like
right,
damaged goods.
Well, his music used to be very, very different. It was trap nasty, and he was even like at that point would make songs that would like, make you rethink your life and be like, holy shit. So even at that point, I'm like, this dude is a fucking super duper star, and that was before he apparently could be a pop
Somebody
star.
save me.
Right. No, but I mean, he's super dope. I'm trying to think of like new artists because I usually just dig into the vaults,
Yeah,
I
do playlists. So but then I never remember anybody's names.
Right. Well, and working on music too. I mean, this sounds terrible, but a lot of times, like listening to podcasts, that's definitely what I did when I was like building this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But after working on music all day, sometimes the last fucking thing I want to do is listen to music.
Yeah,
You know what I
totally,
mean?
totally.
I've had my speakers blaring or like listening at quiet volume, but still working on the same song, even how much I might love the song in the beginning of the day after a couple hours of mixing it. So then the last thing I'll want to do is like listen to music for pleasure, which kind of sucks. It's like, working at your favorite restaurant, I bet your favorite meal probably sucks to you in 6 months or some shit.
Totally.
But so then, I don't know. And if you're listening to something and you're producing music, I just like get worried too that I'll like
steal something.
Yeah. It's like subconsciously, or be like that'll be like my frame of reference if I'm like going to mix. Then it's like that might not be their idea for the song. If I just happen to be listening to this album and then cut it off, come in here,
Totally.
So
no, I see how that would work totally. But then it's nice to, for me, like I do a lot of podcasting, just day to day kind of stuff when I'm fucking around. But then I'll do a lot of music while I'm editing.
Right.
And then I'm really bad. I'm either looking through new music or listening to the same shit over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'll get put on to cool shit just like from people sending me like references for songs or like, coming through when they sit down here, like dudes who are at all into music. I'll try to, like, one of the cool things about the room is with all the sound treatment there, I'll try to pull up a song that they've listened to maybe their whole life. And like the coolest part is, they'll be listening to something and in like the third chorus, there'll be an organ they had never heard before or something like that. Like, whoa, man, I've been listening to this song for however long and I never, so like giving people that experience is cool. And then a lot of times they'll try to throw me a curveball because they don't want to play me something that I've heard 100 times before. So they're digging in the vaults for something super dope.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate that. Like whenever people come through and I'm showing them a couple songs and then they'll throw me some curveballs. I'm like, cool, that's going into the vault. If I ever, hear something and I'm like, oh yeah, what was that one song?
I love that.
Yeah.
I know. I'd love to come out for a session sometimes. I should. Next time Miles comes around, I might have to pop by. Now.
Hell yeah, man. No, he comes through quite a bit. And
shout out Miles. He was on my second episode.
Hell yeah. That's what's up.
Yeah, he came out to California with us.
Yeah. No, I remember him. I think I seen him. I don't know if I've seen him after the trip. I know he was in here like shortly before it. I was trying to think if he came in after or if we had just like messaged after that about some songs and shit. But he's always got some stuff brewing,
Fuck yeah.
He'll always come work on a couple and like finish one, but then a couple will be on there with just, just the beginnings or whatever. So it's cool,
Yeah, I'm all about that, dude. Just keep creating, keep pushing, guys.
Hell yeah.
Well, I think we're at an hour now. I don't know. You want to keep going?
I'm shit. It's up to you, man.
Dude, you're doing great.
No, I really didn't know if the Tupac thing was a
I thought it was super good, actually.
Hard curve laugh. I just,
And your voice actually sounds great on here, so it's like...
Well, I might have a voice or a face for radio. No, a voice for radio, too. I'm just fucking around.
I'm pretty awkward in all elements of it, but...
No, I feel you. I get nervous once the red light's on a little bit. My life is usually audio, not the video. But I mean, it's definitely good seeing you and catching up. And
yeah, dude, we should do this again. This should just be the first one, dude.
Yeah, I'm down. Well, I definitely support what you're doing, man. And it's cool you committed to doing this. I definitely, instead of just kicking it around and having the idea, I dig the follow through.
No, fuck it. Just keep moving and keep creating.
No, and if you're ever going to do any of that live shit, definitely let me know. I'll come out and support you.
I definitely,
any of those ventures.
dude. We'll have to get you to come on the panel one of these days.
Right. No, for sure.
I think we're going to do a 420 show at the Azara spot, but this probably won't. Well, maybe it'll come out before then.
Right. No, for sure. Whatever works. I think that's Easter this year, too.
Well, why don't you plug your shit, dude? Where can the people find you?
Halliewood Recording Company. Yeah, it was super easy to spell and everything. No, just kidding. I'll
throw the link in the bio.
No, I'm just messing around. It's HALLIEWOOD Recording Company on Instagram and all that. I try to be the most active on Instagram, but it's on Facebook too. I made a TikTok. That's as far as that went. So
yeah. And what kind of people do you service? Like, if there's anybody listening that like does music, kind of wondering, like.
I mean, really across the board, and I definitely, like, depending on needs, we'll certainly have a conversation, and I'll, see if I can add value to what they're trying to do, because there's certain projects that I might not be the guy for, or I know somebody who is better suited for it. But
totally.
I mean,
But if you got the budget.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, I work with bands, or like I had a singer-songwriter, Bryce Hedke. He just released his first single, and he came in and has worked on 6 songs over like the past couple months. And like I did all the, like drums and percussion for it, and then he did guitar, bass, vocals, and some keys. And then there was a band that came in, and we recorded drums and the whole work. So it really, I had a string quartet come in. We can accommodate. I tried to make it so I could accommodate anybody's project, unless I mean, if it's a 15-person Slipknot, we might run into troubles. But
sure,
other than that, I can pretty much accommodate any project. And like you were talking about with voiceover stuff too, ADR, rappers, singers, pop artists, singer-songwriters, full bands, trying to do the reason for building this place was so I could kind of, be able to accommodate anybody, and not, the first thing we're doing is talking about, well, if we sacrifice this and this for your project so we can, that always was the first barrier. So now it's like, okay, we can get it done no matter what the needs are, within reason. So
I love that, dude. Well, thanks again for having me over, and I've got a lot of ideas. We can talk about it off camera, but I would like to come back here and maybe somehow make content around creating a song with somebody, but we'll see how we can figure it out.
Yeah, no, that'd be super dope.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
Guys, if you made it this far, thank you. Like, subscribe, do whatever you got to do. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks.
Nirvana means in Sanskrit, blow out. That is, exhale the breath.